Hello, 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 hello again. It's Crazy Teacher Nick here with a second video on his top tips for AS Level English Paper 2. Hopefully you've seen my top tips for Paper 1. So today we're going to have a look at some of my top tips for AS Level Paper 2. So, tip number 1. I'm sure you guys have heard me say this before. Read the question. Okay. So if you want to basically be absolutely clear on what you need to do, the question is there to help you. It uses the advice within the text. Use that question to make sure that everything you need to do is in your question, whether it be the question 1A or the question 2, 3, or 4. The information that is available in that question is there to help you. So if you want to be effective, okay, understand the question, okay, and be sure on what the task is that has been set before you. Okay, so many students come into the paper thinking that basically I'm going to be writing a story, and that is not the case. Okay, you're being asked to basically do something specific. So take note of, okay, what is the text type that they're asking you to write? Okay, what effects are you being asked to create within your text? What is the focus of that text? And what content must you create? Those are the main questions you want to take note of. You want to be asking yourself. Okay, very much the same idea, doing your text type, audience, and purpose. You are doing that. You're now going to be the creator. In the paper 1, you were analyzing how it was done. Now you are writing it. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you are including all of those things. Know your key conventions. Okay. Tip number 2, plan. So, honest Abe Lincoln, one of the US presidents, okay, said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend 4 hours sharpening the axe." Well, you don't have 4 hours, and we're going to touch on that shortly, but a stitch in time saves 9. Okay, I'll stop with all the quotes and the puns and the rest of it, but you get the idea. Taking a little bit of time to plan, okay, is going to help you. And this is not just planning your title or planning the very first paragraph you're going to write. Okay, you want to make sure that you know how many paragraphs you're going to write. Okay, know your key conventions. The key conventions will help you plan. If you know what key conventions are connected to that text type, and this is what examiners are looking for, okay, use those key conventions. Consider them kind of almost half of your plan done. Think about the who, the what, the where, the when, and the how. Your teachers would have told you to use these ideas, especially if you're having to write an article. Okay, but think about it. These are the things that your audience will want to know. Okay, think about your point of view. Make sure that you consider the audience. They're going to tell you who the audience is. You're going to be writing to that audience. And normally that audience is going to be people your own age. And that is going to affect the context of what you are writing. It's going to affect the language. It's going to affect your vocabulary. It's going to affect your structural effects. So what perspective are you taking on the text? Okay, again, these are things that we talk about in the key conventions. Then we come to creativity. And no, we're not testing you on how creative you are and what beautiful stories you can write. Okay? Keep your eyes on the prize, Violet. You may remember that from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Okay? And the prize is the question. Keep going back to the question, making sure that you are meeting all the requirements of the question in your planning. Keep thinking about what you are expected to achieve. Do not sacrifice the style of the text because you want to show off your personal creativity. It's not about how creative you can be, although creativity is a big part of this. There's no text to guide you. There's just the question. So that question, the question is the prize, so keep your eyes on the prize, Violet. Keep your eyes on the prize. That is what's going to make sure that you are effective. So there's a lot to think about. And it doesn't matter whether it's questions 1 or questions 2, 3, or 4. Section A or section B, 2, 3, or 4. That section 2, 3, or 4, you still need to make sure that you're meeting all the requirements of the question. Time. So I said we'd get to time. So paper 1, okay, there you had more time. In this paper, you've only got 2 hours, okay, 120 minutes. So watch the time. Use 60 minutes for question 1. If you have any time left over, that is fantastic. You can use that for questions 2, 3, or 4. But in general, students and that complete questions 1A and 1B, okay, within 60 minutes. You're going to need the full 60 minutes to complete questions 2, 3, or 4. Okay. So question 1, you've got question 1A, and now question 1A is the important one. It's worth the 15 marks. This is the writing. This is where all your planning, okay, comes into play here. You expected in question 1A to write between 350 to 400 words. And the actual exam says do not go over 400 words. And that is actually to help you with your timing. Students are expected to be able to write about 600 words within an hour at a minimum. Okay, so if you're spending, let's say, 7 minutes to plan your 1A, most of your work is going to be done. Okay, so watch your timing. Make sure you plan for that question 1A. The 1B, the reflective commentary. If you have done the planning, the reflective commentary is easy because you know what effects you created in 1A. So therefore, when you write about them, okay, and I suggest you're aiming at about 200 or 250 words. Do not do more than that. Okay, a little bit less than 200 words, let's say 175, yes, it would still be acceptable. But when that clock strikes 60 minutes, that's where you stop. Because question 2 is worth 25 marks, and you're going to need the full 60 minutes to be able to collect as many of those marks as possible. Okay, so your key questions here are 1A and question 2. Yes, the reflective commentary is important. There's no doubt about that. That you cannot go and throw 10 marks away. Okay, but those 10 marks in that, if you're running out of time, finish it off and move on to the question 2. Don't waste time. Okay, and it's just funny, I heard a story the other day. A student arrived at the exam without their glasses. They weren't able to see the clock and they actually ran out of time. If you can't see the clock, please, if you forgot your glasses or you can't see the clock, Tell the examiner, ask them to move you closer to the clock at the front of the class. Okay, tip number 4. Know your structural devices. Okay, you want to use, in questions 1A, you're going to use maybe 2 noticeable structural devices, maybe 3 if you can squeeze it in. 3 would be great. Make sure that they are noticeable, and remember that you are going to be discussing at least 1 or 2 of them in your reflective commentary. You're going to be writing those structural devices for effect. Okay, you're going to be writing those structural devices for effect. So make sure you know your structural devices. Make sure you use your structural devices. Tip number 5. Know your language devices. Okay, make sure that they are clear. Whether it be questions 1A, so that they are clear because you wrote them, you know what you're writing there about. So when you get to the 1B, you can identify the language devices that you used. Okay. In questions 2, 3, or 4, it doesn't matter whether it's an article, whether it's a review, you must make sure that you are still using language devices. This is where you are getting the marks. Use as many figurative language devices as you can. Metaphors, similes, onomatopoeia, onomatopoeia, alliteration. These are all language devices we know. Don't use etc. Okay, don't ever use etc. in an exam. It's kind of like you're telling the examiner and a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm too lazy to write. So never use etc. Use good, strong adjectives. Okay. Use low frequency vocabulary. Now you don't have to go out and swallow the dictionary. Okay. Within a piece of text that's 400 words, 3, maybe 4 low frequency words, more than enough. In the bigger texts, in questions 2, 3, or 4, okay, you want to use at least 5 low frequency words. These are like the big words, right? Mr. Everything English, he's got a wonderful video where he names the top 25 low frequency words. I'm going to include them. I'll probably also include some vocabulary tips from teacher Ash from IGCSE Success. I know that's IGCSE, but the low frequency vocabulary in that is important. Use a variety of punctuation. Okay, don't overdo the exclamation marks. Students think that exclamation marks are shouting. It's not shouting. Okay, the idea of an exclamation mark is to indicate, okay, that it is important. So don't go and start throwing in exclamation marks, and I see it all the time. It's students using in the exams. They use exclamation marks like that's the only piece of punctuation that is available. Hyphens. Semicolons. Oh gosh, they love semicolons. If students can use semicolons properly, they absolutely adore them. Again, Mr. Everything English, IGCSE Success, they give you great tips on how to use semicolons. Okay, remember, this is the writing paper. You are now writing for effect. And these are the things you will not forget. If you remember nothing else from this video, these are the things you will not forget. This is the writing paper. Okay, you expect it to show off the effects you can use when you write. Make sure you get the detail and the content right. Okay, any writing task is going to include some direction for you to include. Make sure you're looking at the question. And finally, think like a writer. Create effects to affect your audience. Think, it doesn't matter if you are writing an article, you may go on to become an engineer or a doctor or a teacher or whatever you decide to become. Okay? For the text, if you are asked to write an article, you're going to imagine you're a journalist. If you're asked to write a review, you're going to imagine you are a reviewer. If you're asked to write a piece of narrative writing or descriptive writing, you're going to write like an author. Imagine you're the author, you're trying to create an effect, okay? You're going to affect your audience. They want to read your text, whatever text type it is. So think like a writer, okay? Don't forget, oh, hang on a second. I don't know, was I supposed to put this slide in? Okay, well, we've got it up. Let's use it anyway. It's not actually cheating. Okay, it's not actually cheating. Use the ideas from previous texts that you've read. Okay, whether it's been from the textbook or in class with teachers, the articles you've read, the reviews you've read. Perhaps you read a review on the latest Warzone game or the new Modern Warfare. Okay, yes, I'm a gamer too. A very old gamer, but a gamer. Okay, or a newspaper. Okay, nobody reads newspaper articles, but you might have read an article on the computer, or a piece of descriptive writing. Okay, descriptive writing is so effective for any piece of text that you're writing. So it's not really cheating, but it's using similar ideas from texts that you have read before. When you were writing your paper one and you were analyzing the piece of text, you will have noticed that the writer used certain effects for that advert, perhaps. Okay, you are creating the same effects. Use the same ideas. Okay, if Cambridge has presented these texts to you, well then clearly they top examples. So use those ideas. Obviously not cut and paste, because that would actually probably be cheating. Okay, but use those similar ideas. Okay, so you're still going to have to study for this exam. You're still going to have to study. You're going to have to go over your structural devices. You're going to have to go over your language devices. You're going to have to remember your context, your form, your structure, your audience. Yes, you're still going to have to go and watch Angulearn videos or videos with Mr. Oh, my apologies. I've noticed that I've spelt that Angulearn wrong. Oops. Please forgive me, Teacher Adna. Okay. Remember, guys, ask questions. Okay. I'm happy to answer anything. Please like and subscribe. This is my second video. I want to make more. Tell me the kinds of things you want me to do. I'm going to do some more stuff very, very specific to the questions. And happy exams.